The first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all rise, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The following matters will come before the Revere Licensing Commission today at our regularly scheduled meeting. The meeting previously filed with the city clerk. The first order of business will be the approval of minutes of June 26th and July 17th of 2019. Is there a... I will second the motion. The minutes are approved. The next order of business will be the item number 1, the Beachmont Improvement Committee, State Street at Kimberly Park to Donley Square. Kathleen Heiser is the event manager. This is an application for a one-day common victular entertainment license to be exercised on Saturday, September 28, 2019, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. for a Beachmont Multicultural Festival to take place on State Street between Kimberly Park and Donley Square. The event is to include food, art, music, games, and a short sidewalk parade. Is there anybody here on behalf of the Beachmont Improvement Committee? I don't see anyone. We will table that.
I don't know that we got all the information yet about this time. We're still waiting for more paperwork.
We'll bring it back up later on.
Okay.
Item number 2, Joseph Leon Matola Post, 4524 VFW US Inc., 61 Lucia Avenue, John French, the event manager. This is an application for a one-day license for an all-alcohol common victular and entertainment license. The application of John Leon Matola Post for a one-day common victular license and entertainment license is to be exercised on September 8th, a Sunday, from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. for a veterans event to take place in the parking lot of 61 Lucia Avenue. The event to include a cookout and games. Your name and address for the record, please, sir.
It's Mark Marston. Home address is 46 Sampson Ave, Swampscott, and the event is 61 Lucia Ave in Revere.
Very good. Can you tell us a little bit what your plans are for this event?
Yes, sir. So we're hoping to have a cornhole tournament, which is the beanbag toss game, where proceeds are going to go for Toys for Tots and a handicap lift for the Matola Post.
Do any of my fellow commissioners have any questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. You say this is going to be in the parking lot. How many people are you expecting?
I'm expecting around 50.
Around 50.
Yeah.
And are you doing a barbecue?
So I think the barbecue aspect has changed a little bit. I think we're just going to do cold sandwiches, but yes, some food and beverage, yes.
Because I'm just concerned we have 50 or more. We'd like to have fire detail there also. So do you think it's going to go over the 50?
I don't believe so, but we are not doing a barbecue.
Okay, so you're going to have it in the parking lot. Where will
Yep.
the parking be?
So parking will be around the side of the building and on-street parking.
And on-street
Yes.
parking? Because you won't be able to use the yard. Have you been in contact with, is it called Castellucci or whatever the name is, upstairs, if they're having an event at the same time?
We have, and we are actually, we've reserved that hall as a rain venue. In case it rains, we're going to use the upstairs.
Okay, so then there'll be no event upstairs unless you utilize.
There will not be an event upstairs.
Okay, because I know they have a 300 capacity there. It just
Yes.
wouldn't work with no parking.
Right. So we actually reserved the hall in the event of rain so we could move upstairs.
Okay. No, I have no other questions.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Oops, that's not good feedback. Anyway, so You're asking for an all-alcohol license, which, you know, for a small area from 9 hours of service, to me it appears like a little extreme versus just a beer and wine. Yeah, I don't think it matters. I think. We'll just use that one. Okay. Anyway, so I guess the question, why all alcohol? Because we're talking 50 people, you're there all day. You know, the hard liquor is a lot more stronger than beer and wine, last I checked. So that's what caught my eye.
Well, I think, Commissioner, excuse me, just to clarify, I think from what I've heard and what I've read, they have the all-alcoholic beverage license in the club downstairs, and they will be bringing the alcohol as ordered outside.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that's what I was led to believe at the time, that the alcohol is not, you're not setting a bar up outside.
Oh, so
No.
you just, okay, I get you.
It's just to use their same license and bring it out. But if you were going to set up a bar out there, then it would be a different, so you're not doing that. Okay, okay,
Just-
Commissioner,
oh,
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. So I guess the question comes to the parking, because, you know, a lot of the people living there in the past, recently, since Domino's has been there, there's been more traffic, parking concerns, so, but if there's no other events, then, you know, it's not a big deal from my perspective at this point.
Very good, okay. I see that you have the sign-offs from both health and fire, so I guess we're all set. We just need a motion. Is there a motion to?
Excuse me, Commissioner, are we looking at, over 50, we've stated that there would be police detail from them. Although I think there are police officers in the organization.
Yes.
So I don't know how we left off on that.
From inside the establishment.
Be a problem.
And just one other question, I'm sorry. As far as music, what kind of music are you going to have there? Entertainment? Okay, so you're sure of that? I mean, that makes the difference to the neighborhood and...
No, very short. No DJs, no dance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll close that section. Are there any proponents? Anybody like to speak on behalf of this? Your name and address for the record, please, sir.
I think it's for a great cause. Toys for Tots is a great organization. So I hope that you allow it. Thank you.
Are there any other proponents? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close that section of the meeting. Are there any opponents? Anybody opposed to this? I don't see or hear anyone. I'll close that section. Do we have a motion?
Just before you, so there's going to be no entertainment, correct? Okay, so.
That's right. No, other than just the game itself.
Okay.
No entertainment.
So that entertainment license line is not. Okay. Yeah, I know that's considered entertainment, the game itself. Okay. Pretty broad.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
The application is approved. The application for a one-day license for all alcohol, common victular entertainment to be exercised at the Matola Post, 4524 VFW US Inc. for one day of September 8th, 2019 from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. for a veterans event to take place in the parking lot of 61 Lucia Avenue. The event to include cookout and games. Thank you very much. Is that yours?
Did you turn yours?
Thank you. Item number 3, Ralph Ravisi, DBA Sea Level Raw Bar, parking lot across from 306 Revere Street. Ralph Ravisi is the manager. This is an application for a stationary mobile food vendor, common victualer's license. The application for Ralph Ravisi, DBA Sea Level Raw Bar, for a common victualer's license for a stationary mobile food vendor to be parked in the parking lot of 306 Revere Street during the hours of Tuesday through Sunday from 12 p.m. until 11 p.m. with no seating, serving a raw bar. Your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Ralph Ravisi, 742 Broadway, Revere, Mass.
What your plans are for this?
Yes, we have 4 items on the raw bar, and we'd like to operate from Tuesday to Sunday, have 1 day off. I'm the sole proprietor, I own the business, and I have a 12-year-old, 6-year-old that love to help out and see what I'm doing. And we're just trying to make a living. We wanted to serve oysters, cherry stones, lobster rolls, and shrimp cocktail. Those are the only 4 items that we wanted to. We actually just got done doing the feast in the North End, one of the biggest feasts in the state, Fisherman's Feast. It was a huge success, and it's great watching my kids jump in, hands-on, and trying to learn how to make an honest dollar, you know?
Very good, sir, thank you. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any questions?
Well, yeah, I have several questions. First of all, I'm from the North End. I'm very familiar with the feast. It's a wonderful time to go to. And you're very lucky that you get in there. It's hard to get a vendor's license there. But I'm just wondering, what brought this about? Why would you want to put we'll call it a raw bar? Okay.
I opened many of the high-end restaurants in Boston with some of my mentors. I worked for Del Frisco's down the Seaport. I worked for Row 34, opened those doors with Jeremy Seawall, and I made Chronicle as far as being a shucker. And I also was on Phantom Gourmet a few times. So my passion is with the raw bar. And again, I'm trying to show my kids and my family that you can create something out of nothing. My raw bar was just a tin box, all wood inside, and if you take a look at it, it's state of the art. I actually got a compliment from the Boston inspector that just recently inspected the raw bar for the feast. So
I did inspect it. I did go in and look at it.
oh, thank you.
And I did inspect it. It's quite nice.
Thank
It's the
you,
first
Mary.
one I've been in. We've given licenses out in the city, and I haven't had a chance to. Well, down Broadway, I may have gone in that one, but yours is the state of the art. Can I just ask you a personal question?
Absolutely.
How are you related to D'Amelio's Off the Boat, and are you?
I have no relation with D'Amelio's Off the Boat whatsoever. I am solely a tenant, and Antonetta D'Amelio is my landlord. So what I did was I proposed her maybe draw up a lease for me and see how it would go for a couple of days, and she agreed to dedicating 2 specific spots for me. We even went as far as going out and buying one of the best generators that does not make a sound whatsoever. So I'm trying to do everything that the city asked. We were open on Saturday and Sunday during the Sandcastles, and I wasn't aware that I wasn't in compliance. I didn't know that I needed this specific application filled, and that's why I stand before you today. But as far as, I don't know if you have any issues on parking, I pretty much covered all the bases, so I'm ready for any questions that you have.
Close to the area, so I am concerned about, the parking, and you were open and maybe shouldn't have been. So I do live in the area, and I did see, and we don't have parking problems with that restaurant. Actually, the restaurant's been quite an asset to Revere Street. I mean, we've had several different restaurants there, and the restaurant's been great coming in. It's lit up the whole area. They do a great job keeping up the property. But my concern, I guess, is not quite the parking, where will they, oh, they'll come into the parking lot to make an order, is that it?
So in other words, just like the feast, like picture yourself in the north end. And if I can just say, Saturday and Sunday during the Sandcastles, there wasn't one vehicle that pulled in to buy raw bar. It was all neighborhood, locals, and they were giving me this feedback, and I was amazed myself. So as far as the ordering, they come right up to the window. We don't have anything pre-shucked that's on display. I open, they eat it, that's it. We're actually going to put a couple of nice flower pots, providing we get approved today, around the trailer. So it'll look very uniformed, and there won't be any obstruction as far as cars. We're going to protect the customers as far as when they're valeting the cars in and out of that parking lot. So there will be an area that is dedicated just for my serving window. And if we do run into some parking issues, St. Anthony's gave me 40 parking spots because I do maintain the property in the winter. We take care of the plowing and all that stuff for them. So
The reason is I don't want to keep badgering, it's just that we've given out licenses for food trucks, and I don't think we were as thorough as we should have been. And then when they come in, you know, they're down Northgate, but they just went wherever they want. I thought the designated area was given down by Planet Fitness. Come to find out, they're moving from one corner to the other corner around. I've noticed we have a food truck on Broadway. They've moved several times. And it, you know, I know you're leasing from the restaurant across from there, but we have like the China Roma. When that truck moves, they're taking out the restaurant's parking. So, you know, you're having this lease, and as long as they realize this could happen, you could end up taking parking spots away from them.
they are well aware of that. As far as moving, that's the reason that I am here. I actually think that that's a great spot. So do a lot of the neighbors. And we're not going to be moving. The only moving we do is private events. So if the trailer wasn't there one day, it's because we have a private event on someone's property or something like the feast in the North End. Other than that, we want to remain stationary from Thursday to Sunday in between the hours of 12 and 11 p.m. And again, if the hours don't work, if that's an issue, I can always cut back, open a little later, stuff like that.
Question is, I see where you've moved it. You had it up front, actually, by the sidewalk. I don't know that that was a great spot. When I went by, I kind of, you know, what are we doing here? Now, you've moved it back several feet, right where it is, not blocking other businesses' windows. Will that be stationary there? I mean, is that something, if this were approved, we're not going to move around and put like on the sidewalk and...
Exactly. That is going to stay there. I don't know who had mentioned that it should be roughly 10 feet off of the convenience store wall, but I made it 12 feet off, and it fits perfect in between those two spots that I leased from them. But it is not going to be placed on the left side of the parking lot or the right side of the parking lot. It is staying in one spot. And again, next time you drive by, providing I get approved, it's going to look like D'Amelio's. They have some nice flower pots in front of their doors. So I wanted to dress it up kind of like a restaurant and not touch it at all, you know, and even make some kind of display area that will cover the trailer hitch so people can rest maybe their trays there and all that stuff. All the plates and forks and the containers we use are all biodegradable as well. So, you know, we're trying to go green right now, but that's the next bridge.
With where it is now, if the location were to change, I'd again have to rethink it, because I think we originally had it, just didn't work for the neighborhood.
I couldn't agree with you more. I didn't like that spot, because it's a handicap spot. That's where the owners told me to put it at the time, and that's when we sat down and started talking. After a few people came down and they were concerned about blocking the convenience store window. We're not trying to hurt anybody's business. Actually, it's helping the convenience store because we don't sell beverages. So if they want a drink, they go into the convenience store, spend a few dollars there and all that.
Probably your biggest customers. I'm very surprised. I didn't think they ate the raw food, but anyways, I have no other questions. Thank you very much. It's just that we've had problems before, and maybe I didn't get enough answers before giving other licenses out, so
I understand, I
hopefully
appreciate
going
that.
forward, we will make sure we cross all our Ts and dot all the Is.
Sounds good to me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do you have any
Yeah.
questions?
Of course. So I guess what I'm going to say here is going to, obviously, it's going to be, it's not going to mean much until we hear from all of the parties that are involved and who have to give approval, but I guess the way I look at it, should you have done what you did on the Sandcastle weekend, not just go ahead? No, but we're typically, we give people second chances. That's our history here. I think we all agree on that. So you made a mistake, so in the future, don't ever think about coming back here if you've tried something without permission. That's all I can say on that. That said, I gotta look at, if that private area, private parking lot is zoned properly, is zoned in accordance to the rules of the city, that's what we're gonna look at first. I'm gonna get all the information once they come up and speak. And for me, I think it's a good concept. I think that, it's kind of unique. I don't think anyone else is doing that in food trucks. And I don't think it's going to be a huge traffic situation. But however, I got to hear from everybody and before we render any feedback on a decision. So we'll go from there and give it back to the chairman, the commissioner.
Thank you. Just one quick question. Do you foresee this being a year-round event, or?
I do, actually. I'd love to be open year-round, 6 days a week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Would anybody else like to speak on behalf here?
How you doing? Nico Kostopoulos, 111 Mill Street in Revere. And I just wanted to speak on Ralph's behalf. I've known Ralph for quite a long time, and Ralph's been a fisherman and been in this industry for a real long time, and he's a great chef and a great chucker. And I had the opportunity to work that Fisherman's Feast with him and see how, the quality product he puts out there and what the customer's feedback was from his product. And Ralph knows how to speak to the customers. He gives out a good product. He's concerned that his product is quality, and he makes sure he gets all the top oysters and cherry stones. And he's doing this for his family to create a future for himself and his family. He's a hardworking man, and I think this is something that the city could support because it is a unique item that the city doesn't have, and maybe would bring a little bit of a drawdown to that end of Revere. And I think it does complement, D'Amelio's restaurant. Because they don't have that exact thing going. So I just wanted to again speak on behalf of Ralph, his attention to detail and willingness to conform with the city and make this happen for him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on behalf?
Wayne Rose, 19 Thorndike Street. I live right around the corner from D'Amelio's on Thorndike Street. The days that he was open, I went over and had some oysters. It was really nice. I think it brings something different to the city. So I hope you guys will approve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of this? Anybody opposed to it?
Good afternoon, Deputy Chief Paul Cheever, Revere Fire Department, Head of Fire Prevention in the city. I'll start with the weekend of the Sandcastles. He was discovered operating in the parking lot on Saturday, at which time he was shut down by the health department and told to finish up that day and was not to operate on Sunday. He continued to operate on Sunday. He admitted here that he operated on Sunday. But I also understand from neighbors and people in the neighborhood that we interviewed after the fact that said he was also operating that Friday before. So it was 3 days a weekend, it was 3 days at the Sandcastles. So I understand he's, trying to run a business and everything, but a city official shut him down on Saturday and he still went and operated on Sunday. So I think there's a little bit of an issue of respect for the city officials in the city when it comes to that. As far as what he is, I spoke to the building commissioner. He has not received the application for this vendor. I have not seen the application for this vendor. So we understand he's a food truck, or he's going to be stationary on the parcel. So that changes his definition, okay? My discussions with the building commissioner, he said that based on his code review for that area, it is not allowed. So at this time, the code and the laws of Massachusetts do not allow this operation. Now, that said, maybe at some time next year when the city finishes its food truck ordinance, he may be able to apply to the food truck ordinance and work it that way. Right now, as we stand, the way the codes are written in this city, he's not allowed to operate this way. He's not he's saying he's not part of D'Amelio's across the street. So if he's now not part of the D'Amelio's across the street, he's not associated with some structure. There's no structure on the property that he can say he's associated with. He's saying he's going to permanently leave it here and put flower planters around it and everything else. That's not a food truck now. Now it's a structure. So that changes the game again. There's certain criteria that the state have as far as how food trucks have to operate. That might be where he got the 10 feet from, because that's basic in the code, at least 10-foot clearance distances. Now, as far as no association with D'Amelio's, so he said that his customers were people in the neighborhood. No one pulled in the parking lot, so people just walked in from the neighborhood. No one came from across the street. I have a little bit of an issue with that. So we also need to figure out who has the lease to this parking lot. This was D'Amelio's parking lot. D'Amelio's parking is part of his license, and now someone else is getting part of this parking spot to put a food truck. So now we have less parking. I understand D'Amelio's has their certificate of inspection shows an occupancy of 95. Their previous, before the remodel, showed an occupancy of 150. Back in 95, when D'Amelio's opened, there was a chair count of 121. He was told to sprinkle the property back then. This commission, back in November 18th of 2015, tabled his license at that time until that issue was resolved with the sprinkler system. Somehow I can't find it in the records, and I've asked for the records of what meeting that he was issued his license. He received his license. Our department has never received an updated floor plan for that license. So he has an occupancy of 95, seats of 121. By Mass Building Code, by the fire code, that building is supposed to be sprinkled. That's a conversation that will have to come up again at a future meeting. We're going to have to discuss that and get that property straightened out and up to code. So that's D'Amelio's associated with this. Right now, based on the regulations, you have no right to give him a license to operate on this lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy.
I just think, just a clarification on two items. Clarification is why I asked that question. It is a mobile truck. I know that he moves it around. That's why I asked the question. I wanted to see if he was going to be honest with me, because I happen to know this week he also did a party in the city of Revere, and he did move the truck. The truck is not a stationary truck, nor is it going to be, because from what I understand, he already has bookings for other parties. As far as D'Amelio's, we can look into that, but, and I think Michael, who a dear friend of mine, knows the story there. Yes, they did, when D'Amelio's opened, they did have over 100 there. What happened was, when they remodeled, they found out there was a huge fire they never knew about. When they opened that wall, they had to actually take that whole part of the building and get rid of it because the fire was so bad. I don't know if Michael remembers this. And so they did take it down. That's where I got the number of 95. I went and inspected when they were doing the work, and you know, there was some question on work they were doing. I went and inspected. It was true, and I do know that wall actually became a cement wall, and the next door yard is now using that area. So I believe he should be, and on his license should be 95 and no more, okay? And like I say, those two questions, I think, you know, we've answered. But again, these food trucks, I have to excuse myself, I'm a little ignorant to the process also. We've given out licenses, and I have to tell you, after I thought about it, I guess I probably didn't vote the right way, as to say, this is the footage, this is where you're gonna stay. And these people didn't. They were using their truck moving all around Northgate Shopping Center in the back. They were going where the houses were. They're selling stuff at 1, 2 in the morning. And I will blame myself for voting for it. I did vote for it, but maybe didn't ask enough questions. Fire department never was called there, never knew. They never explained to the fire department where were these wires coming from? What kind of tank do they have in there? And it was barbecuing. It was hot food cooking. So I appreciate everybody coming up so that I can be educated also. But on the other hand, we've given these out before, and what again, I'll say, I don't even know who owned the land when I approved that license down at Charger Street, I guess, way down the back. And now one's saying the athletic club is saying, we didn't tell him he could be there. Northgate, Price Right said, no, we didn't give him permission to be there. So I'm a little confused as to, all right, this is D'Amelio's Restaurants, D'Amelio's property. That's if, in fact, they did agree to it. Northgate, it's Northgate's property, and we said, okay, you can put a food truck there. Okay, so I'm as confused as anybody else. I want to do the right thing, but I also want to be fair.
Okay, so right now, as far as food trucks in the city of Revere, the only food trucks that are allowed to operate in the city hold permits for me, and permits from the health department through Mike Wells, and they're not allowed to operate on private property other than one-day license for here or there for events, and that's
a food truck across from 250 Broadway on city property.
it's not city property. Oh, 250 Broadway, no, that's different. So those are one-day licenses for events that the city's holding on public property. Who is it? Who is it? We'll go over and shut him down. He's only supposed to be there during events.
Friday, Saturday, all day.
With an orange cone in the front.
Michael, I've gone there every day because people complaining, and I'm just trying to learn. And so I did go by every day. It is there every day.
Okay. And
Okay,
now
so
that
if
we're
you would
aware of
check that out, right. And like I say, I think we're all learning.
I have video, and I went by there many times, I'm sorry. I have video and pictures of that gentleman setting up many times. I can't fabricate time-stamped pictures and cell phone records, so I've been more than willing to print those and share them with the committee.
We're here for clarification, and this is going on. Let's check them out also.
Okay. All right. So now that I'm aware of that, I will now go up and we'll take a look at that. We'll police it. I'm not aware of it. Didn't come through 311. I'm not aware of it. So the only time they're supposed to be operating is during the city-sanctioned events and the festival events. Okay. All right. Well, then we'll deal with it. So the ordinance isn't completed yet. So he's not supposed to be doing that. Northgate's food truck has already been removed from the property. When I removed that truck from the property, I went over and spoke with the indoor soccer people. Truck's gone. That truck's been gone for a couple of months. Yep.
To this board, if I'm correct, that he had permission and we voted for it. I know I did. I won't speak for my colleagues. But that's what they're coming up here saying they have permission, they don't. This fella is clearly on city property every day.
Okay.
Okay?
So now we'll address that. So right now, the Revere Street lot does not meet the code requirements for that type of operation. When the ordinance is complete, what I suggest that he do is go and get a copy of the draft ordinance, go down to community, go down and see Dimple down in City Hall. Okay, when you have the mic, you can have the mic. What I'm saying to you is do that, and you get an opportunity to speak into the ordinance and get it in favor of what you're looking to propose. We're a few months out from having that done. So it should be something you should be looking for the spring.
So, sir, you did all this research on this location with all the guys out there?
So, okay, so you're telling them what has to be done. If that's done, what other steps do they have to take?
He has to, so we have to figure out what's going on with the parking on that lot. Once he's approved through the codes and the ordinances, then at that point, he has to do a safety plan. He's saying he's gonna leave it there. You just said you've already seen him leave with an event. So we gotta determine what he's doing, okay? All right, and so now we need to determine that. He has to meet the code requirements for clearance distances, safety, inspections, everything else, and hold his permits. That will all be outlined in the ordinance.
Yes, I just needed the fire signature. Mike Wells did say he was, I'm sorry. I do have one signature. I don't know if he's gonna rescind or not, but it says contingent upon approval from licensing zoning board from Michael Wells. And to speak to, back at the Sandcastles, I was not aware that I was supposed to shut down on that Saturday, and that was a miscommunication on my part. But I did come up here Monday morning, first thing, saw Maggie, and this is where we are today. But as far as the food ordinances, I don't understand. If there's no food ordinance on food trucks in the city of Revere, why am I not allowed to operate and everybody else is parked in between the DPW parking lot and the gym making money every day? I have a 12 and a 6-year-old that I just want to support. That's it. That's all I want to do. Want to make the neighborhood look good, and the thing isn't going to be stationary. If you listen, it's going to be stationary in those designated parking spots for when I'm down there. I do a lot of private events, and I have a lot of private events coming up, so it will be coming and going. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, as far as you're talking about down north, he went down there and shut them down.
Right, but as far as the Mexican corn guy over here, City Hall.
He's
got a license.
And you know what? For somebody to work next door, I'm not going to mention any names, and to wave their head, say it's not there anymore, that's kind of immature, I think.
Wayne Rose, 19 Thorndike Street. Do we have an ordinance for these food trucks? And if we do, what is it? How did these other people get their licenses? And this poor guy can't.
It's a zoning issue. People need to have requirements. There are requirements that need to be fulfilled from the fire department, from the health department, from the building department.
Well,
if you get those requirements fulfilled, you can have a license.
So we
Unfortunately, excuse me, this gentleman has not been able to fulfill those requirements, either through to a code issue or a definition issue of regarding his truck, or is it a fixed facility? So these things have to be ironed out. We don't just give out licenses. That may be the perception, but that's not the reality.
We seem to have all kinds of ordinances in the city, and half of them no one respects, like the sign ordinance in the elections. So do we follow some of these ordinances, or do we follow all of them? Thank you.
I just want to speak on that. So he can get a license. He can get a license to operate at any of these city festivals. And he can get a license to go operate down at the Sandcastles. He just can't get a license to operate when there's a zoning violation. His proposal right now is to park this food truck in that parking lot and operate from that parking lot. Based on the current zoning in that area and our current ordinances, he's not allowed to do that. Can he get a license to show up at the festival on Broadway? Or if we have that beer garden thing again? Absolutely. And if he shows up, I'll be eating from his truck. I love Ralph. So it's as simple as that.
Trying to just...
Again, Nico Kostopoulos, 111 Mill Street. For this gentleman, being a professional that he is and being in the industry, and him obviously working with you guys, for him to do this much research on this gentleman and to come up with his notebook and have all these zoning ordinances and know the measurements and know that he's not in compliance because of many different reasons, for him to sit here and tell the commission and tell the audience that he has no idea the kid's out here selling corn, is a total fabrication and lie. And I think you people can recognize that, because that guy hasn't been inspected, and he has propane heat. I mean, we're trying to conduct business within the city. Why is it so hard to get a license? We're lifelong residents of the city. And to get a license, we have to pull teeth. But we're giving out convenience stores and hair salons and barber shops up and down Broadway. Let's get a little different flavor going in the city. Help a hardworking guy out. The guy's got kids he's trying to support. He's not trying to do anything wrong or sell something illegal.
Well, sir, I think you're coming to a judgment here. I don't think this board...
I'm just saying, the way
No, but
he
I'm saying, I
attacked
don't
him,
think
it's-
this board has voted. If he had... No, but I'm saying if he had all the approvals, it doesn't mean he was going to come up here and we're going to deny him a license. I personally see no problem with it at all. But if that's the law we have to go by as commissioners.
If I might add, though, this is the same gentleman who watched the building get knocked down in my neighborhood with no fire hose on the building when it got knocked down. And so if we're gonna follow laws, again, then let's follow all the laws of the city, not the ones that certain department heads were directed to follow by certain individuals. It doesn't make sense.
You're getting a little out of line. Yeah. Endless, will you?
Yes, Mr. Wells.
Michael Wells, City of Revere Food Inspector. So on, not to beat a dead horse, and Deputy Chief already spoke upon it, but my interaction with the situation was on Saturday, July 27th, the weekend of the Sandcastle Festival. I live in the area, and I was coming around the corner, and I noticed that they were operating out of the parking lot. So I pulled in, I introduced myself, and asked them if they had a permit to be on site. He pulled a frame off the shelf, which was a business certificate issued by the city clerk. They told me it was a private event that they were doing, even though I just saw people walk away with product, with money being exchanged. At that point, we got into some conversation. We kept it professional, no issues at that point. I did say to the gentlemen, Nico and Ralph that were there, Joe D'Amelio was also in the trailer, I'm gonna let you guys, I could shut you down right now, but I'm gonna let you guys finish out the day. You already have this product here, I'll let you work the day. You need to follow up with Maggie on Monday morning. Once again on Sunday, they opened again for business. As Deputy Chief has said, we currently do not have a food truck ordinance. We do have special events throughout the city where food trucks do attend. They are permitted through the fire department and through my department at the health department. That's all I really have to say. It's, my end of the food truck business is going in and making sure that we're serving quality, fresh, safe food to the public and ensuring, everybody's health is in check.
I have one quick question. When you would inspect a business like this gentleman's, would you determine where he got the clams and where he got the stuff from?
So in Sea Level's case, they will need to provide shellfish tags from where the seafood did come from.
Excuse me, did you find it to be in good shape when you went there? The conditions, how did you?
Ralph did a special event a couple years ago. I think he might have did Sandcastle. He did something a few years ago. He did bring the truck by my office at one point for an inspection prior to opening. I believe I complimented him on the truck. He does do a nice job with the truck. I did not inspect it on this particular day. I'm not sure. I do know there were no, there was bare hand contact. There were no hair restraints at this time. When I was there, I didn't step foot in the truck. However, when I did inspect it, the interior of it previously, it was in good shape. And there were no issues at that point. But again, this comes down to a zoning issue. It doesn't come down to what he's serving, who he is, what it is, or anything like that. It's about, the issue becomes down to where it is and what it is going on in there.
Thank you very much.
As far as his application, I did sign his application pending approvals from the License Commission and all departments involved that requires him to get a license. Again, I'm the last person, even when a restaurant opens in the city, I'm the last person to do the walkthrough. So they've already gone through site plan review and building department, and plumbing and gas and electrical and fire and all those issues. I'm the last person that walks through the establishment. So if he was approved today through every department, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But again, I can't sign off on something that isn't approved prior to me.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Hi, thank you. As far as the signatures, I'm a little bit confused myself. When I went to City Hall on Monday, like Mr. Wells had asked me to, I did so, and then I went across the street and brought this piece of paper to him, which he had signed. And the building inspector said that there is no structure there. Are you running water, electrical? I said, nope. He goes, you don't need me, have a nice day. So as far as all the other signatures, it seems to me that the only one missing is the fire inspector, which would be just to inspect the generator. Because again, we do not cook anything whatsoever inside that raw bar, nothing.
Making sure that the area is zoned. And, you know, I don't want you to take it personal. We do this with every license that comes up here. We send out papers to all inspectional services, and they either approve or disapprove, and then we work on that. So I think you're just down to one issue, and that's getting it zoned so that you can have, I mean, I shouldn't say it, but I mean, I think you have to say portable. I don't think they're going to allow you to put a structure there. So I think that's the issue here. I just think we've gone so much around this because for a couple of weeks I've been a little upset about how everything's been handled. And we're just trying to do it the right way, and I know both sides are a little confused, but I'm right now just going to take it that it's a zoning issue, and I think as soon as you clear that up, then I think the fire chief can go down there and we're done. You're not cooking there. As you said, maybe he has to inspect the generator or something, I'm not sure, but that's a fire issue, not mine.
As far as the zoning issue, how do I go about that? Is that another hearing?
Is it a zoning issue if this thing is portable?
That's kind of the point. So that's why when he went in, he asked, he said that they were building there. So is it I can't say the stupid word. Is it part of an existing structure? No, because there's no structure. So I don't know which building commissioner he spoke to, but that's misinformation. Again, I talked to the building commissioner, I talked to Benny about it. What his opinion was, he looked it up. And that's where we stand with him. Unfortunately, he's on vacation.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, sir?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, again, as far as being stationary, it's going to be in those two dedicated spots, but it could be 4 days out of the 7-day week that trailer's not even at D'Amelio's. So I just wanted to make that a point, and I appreciate your time, and God bless.
Well, I am kind of at a loss here because I don't think that we can, I don't feel comfortable voting on this without the zoning issue clarified.
Well, I think, the way I feel on this is I think the board didn't have as much information as we needed. So I would like to table this, and at any time that the zoning is cleared, we could call for a special meeting to bring a vote instead of holding this off for several months. So if Mr. D'Amelio can go to the zoning board, have that cleared up, and then I guess the fire deputy chief would have to sign off, then I would be willing to call for a special meeting and vote on it.
Well, One of the things, right now, the real issue is the location. So if he was roaming, a roaming food truck, that's not that he's asking for that license, but if he was a roaming, is that a different meeting, I guess?
No, we don't.
A different application?
I don't believe we give roaming applications. We give licenses for specific locations, at the farmer's market, at the soccer joint.
So they stay stationary, that's all they...
Unless, again, we're misinformed, this board, when we give out we've given out licenses, and I know for a fact, we've given out a license here, and they have done functions at the Beachmont VFW. They have come to the City Revere and done functions, and they've also on Broadway. So I'm a little confused at that you have to stay stationary.
Well, that would be a one-day license.
Then we're in error of giving this license, and yet they can use it everywhere. I know for a fact, we've just had them, I think the chief knows, we've just had them at the Markey Bridge. And we didn't give a license for those, they used the old license we gave them. So that's another question I have. You know, if they keep moving, when we give that vendor truck license, does that work throughout the city of Revere? And maybe they want to get that answered for me. But you can't stay in one area.
Like I said earlier, Ralph is more than welcome to get a vendor's license, and I will sign off on his vendor's license to go to the city functions, which is the Markey Bridge, which is the farmer's market at City Hall, which is the only time I'm aware that the con guy is here. Okay, I don't know about during the week. I know during the farmer's market he's up at Broadway. Okay, so I do know where things are going on. So if he's there other days, I am not aware of that, and if he has records of him being there other days, I'd like to see those records. So he's welcome to get a license to go to the city-sponsored and function events where I go out and I inspect the event. The police are there and have details at the event. So it's covered by the city. So he's welcome to get a license to come and show up at those events.
If we give them a vendor license, they can go around to in our city to these events.
No.
He said yes.
No, that's not what he said. They have to be licensed for each event.
They can't just come on Broadway on Thursday afternoon and park there.
No, I'm saying they can't do it.
They can come to any city-sponsored event, Fall Festival, they can, not that it's a city-sponsored event, the Sandcastle Festival, any festivals that the city is sponsoring or private event, such as the Sandcastle is private.
Do they have licenses to them? I don't think they do.
I don't believe the food trucks have a vendor license through this particular board.
Right.
They have they have a license through the health department for a mobile food permit, and then they also get licensed through the fire department on their gas inspection or
Right.
hookups.
So there's systems. So here's where we are with the ordinance. So this board needs to be brought into the ordinance. This is what's coming to my attention now. These food trucks have licensing through the health department, permits through me to operate at these events, okay? Ralph can do the same thing, so he doesn't really even need a license from here, but what that means is he can't operate in that lot on Revere Street, okay?
So what I'm saying is, if we got the vendor license, I think that comes from the city.
Yep,
So it takes one time for that license, and they can go to the city functions on that one license.
for the year,
For the
for the year.
As long as he's signed up
Right.
with the specific coordinator of the event.
And I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate that. I was actually thinking about doing that, but again, the few feasts that the city holds, I can't support my family on that. That's why I'm, trying to get a common victular license so I can operate the way I would like to, providing we're in compliance. I appreciate being educated myself. I'm just getting my feet wet as far as, where you can go, where you can't go, and there's still a foggy cloud. I still don't
That's
understand.
why this is actually good.
Right,
Because it's
exactly.
going to actually help someone like you in the
I couldn't
future to
agree
make sure
more.
it's worked into the ordinance.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with you anymore. But, I'm going to do whatever I need to do on my end. I don't know where you guys stand, but
instance, we don't issue a vendor license, so that's another department.
right.
But again, I will stay with my motion. If you get the zoning and the fire chief signs off,
Yeah, I don't think anybody's got a problem with your business or you or the way you operate it. It seems like everything is fine. There's just that zoning issue, okay? And once you can resolve that, I don't think anybody would have a problem with you being there.
I appreciate that. So what I'll do is I'll talk to the owner of D'Amelio's and see if they can get the zoning issue straightened out. And then I'll go see Maggie and see if we can get a special hearing or something. Thank you for your time very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And just for the record, the corn guy over here has got a license to serve, isn't it Thursday through Sunday? Yeah, he came in and applied for a license to be at that location Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I don't know if it's Sunday. I'd have to look at the record, but I know that we issued a license for him to be there, not just at the farmer's market, just so you're, for your
but again,
I wasn't
we're
aware
still
of that.
talking, it's still city property. There's no to
Right,
leave.
and that's why I was
Still another
confused.
question.
Like, why can I get the same license that he got?
Well, if you had the zoning, you'd be able
That's,
to.
all right, great. So that's why this is good. Because again, thank you for educating me. We don't know all the laws, you know. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
If you gave him this license, why isn't the fire department aware of it? He should be very aware that that contract is out there, shouldn't he?
That's not your concern.
Yeah, it is my concern. I'm a citizen here, and I'm running for public office. Yes, it is my concern. It's my concern. Thank you.
Item number 5.
Did we
Select-
make excuse me, did that motion go through that I made a motion that
He withdrew it.
does, no, he didn't. No, he said he will call Maggie. Did the chief have something else to say? Oh, I thought he was, no, he said I will call Maggie as soon as I get the zoning. So I'm making a motion that if he gets all of his paperwork in order, it's signed off by the zoning, the fire chief, then I would be very happy to call for a special meeting.
I'll second that motion.
The motion is approved. Item number 5, Selects Transportation, Inc.
4.
Oh, I'm sorry. Item number 4, Black Marble Motorcycle, LLC, DBA Boston Harley Davidson, 649-1 Squire Road, Heather Vieira, Event Manager. This is a hearing into possible improper management of events, included but not limited to illegal off-premises wine sales, failure to obtain inspections, insufficient control and supervision of alcohol beverage service and sales. Your name and address for the record, please.
Kenneth McPhee, 245 Salem Road, Drake, Mass.
Arielle Andrews, 30 Sudbury Street, Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
And what do you want to tell us about these incidents and violations?
First, I'd like to state that Heather Vieira is no longer with the company. And I have been, since we got the letter of notification regarding today's hearing, I have taken over basically anything and everything that has to do with all of our events and permitting. I've been working with Maggie and both Michael and Paul to resurrect what went wrong, understand what we need to do going forward to fix it, and assured them that we are not business that wants to not play by the rules. We're there to be part of the community, we are there to play by the rules, and we are there to create fun times for our customers and for the residents around us. We're not in the business of ruffling feathers and doing things wrong on purpose.
Thank you. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any questions or comments?
Well, yeah, I have a few questions. You know, it seems like every time there's issues, I personally didn't believe we should have given out that many licenses at one time. I think 7-day, one-day licenses, I'm not in favor of, just for this fact. By the time we call you in and there's been violations, you've already had the rest of your functions. And I just find it very hard. Every time there's a problem and there's 7, 8, 9 violations, gee, I'm a new person and that's all gone. It can't work like that. This has happened several times, and every time there's a problem there, somebody new comes on, and it's not their fault. Okay? The serving of alcohol there is, I think, getting out of hand, or these one-day alcohol licenses. Although I appreciate taking Santa Claus off the list with alcohol. And, yeah, it just gets very concerning to me, you know, why we're coming up for these one-day licenses, and they're being abused. I see that, I have to be honest with you, was very disrespectful to this board as to what transpired on those several licenses we gave out at one time. So I would like to hear how my colleagues feel.
Yeah, so it appears Ms. Vieira, who's no longer with the company, may have been pushing the envelope a little bit more than what she, you know, and we were kind of being nice about it. So that said, she's gone. I'm big into moving forward. Can't reverse the past, but she did apparently violate some of her promises, which was kind of a shot again. It doesn't look good with you guys, so, you know, it's like everyone else, give them a second chance. And some of the, so my questions are, moving forward, to move these agendas forward, is the next event the 25th of August? Is that the objective?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's a build your own Sunday. Sunday.
Correct.
Okay, and how many of these events are you looking for approval? Is one the 29th? Or are you looking for just the one?
So, I can start back. I found out that I needed to submit a permit for that. That's why it's late. So I'm trying to make sure that we're playing by the rules. We're starting at zero again with me. We have that one. That is August 25th. We are working directly with Cold Stone Creamery. They are coming in with their ice cream cart. They are going to be the ones handling all of the food. Our customers are actually not going to be touching the food. They will direct the people at Cold Stone Creamery what they want on their toppings in their ice cream. Cold Stone Creamery will then build the ice cream sundae and then hand it to the customer. So there's no touching by the customers. So I know that one's a little late, but I wanted to make sure that we started off on the right foot, knowing how I need to move forward. There's that one, and then there is the updated permit. I believe I sent Maggie in some information regarding the 29th for the local Brews and Beard bike night that we're throwing.
Let's talk about that one.
Sure.
Overview of what that one entails.
Okay, so originally it was going to be outside, and due to what's come to light with how alcohol had been being managed or mismanaged, I should say, we made the decision to move the event inside so that we don't have customers coming inside and outside to participate in anything. Everything's inside. I will have staff stationed at each one of our exits to ensure that no alcohol is being brought through the exits into the parking lot. We also will make sure that all of the exits are marked with big orange paper that says no alcohol beyond this point. And anybody who is 21 or older will receive a wristband, an orange wristband, and their taste tour card. They'll then take that tour card and they will go to each of the breweries that is there. They will get their 2-ounce tasting. The breweries will then X off the spot that they're marking. And then we have the opportunity to allow them each to purchase 2 full-size beverages after they're done. And once they do that, every time they purchase an alcoholic beverage, a beer, let's clarify that, they'll get an X on their wristband, and once there are 2 X's on that wristband, they are no longer able to have any more alcohol.
Sounds like you're controlling the alcohol.
Yes.
Process. What about detail? Police detail? Are you looking at requesting that? Or?
I was not aware that I needed to, but if that's what I need to do, then we'll make that happen.
Randall?
I think we discussed in the previous meeting that,
When I asked for fire and police detail, the previous manager said, only going to have 99. I remember that clearly. So she didn't want the fire or the police detail. I personally, with just what I've read and what happened with these situations, I would ask that the board want to have fire and police there, especially with the rodeo. You have a rodeo down here, you want to have a bike rodeo?
We're talking about the Thursday night only.
Just the Thursday
Yeah, I'm
night?
just talking about, I think that's the only two you're requesting, right, at this point?
We've been approved for the rodeo, apparently, but if you want to discuss it, we can. But right now, yes, we are only talking about the two for August at the moment.
Right, well, we're talking detail.
Yep.
I feel you should have detail at the next one. I feel, you know, I'll hear from the fire chief and see what he thinks, but after what's gone on, and the crowds are much larger that's been stated, and which is great for your business, but at that point, I can't be comfortable with someone saying, well, I'm gonna have 99, so it covers the 100. I personally won't go for that again, so I really think, especially if you're doing a rodeo or any kind of bike activity with speeding, and there should be fire and police detail no matter what the number is. And I know you have the biker bingo. I'm sure you won't have a problem with the bikers. They play bingo, is that?
There's no alcohol being served at that event. It's inside. We sit them at tables. I guess, do you want to talk about like normal city business or no?
I was just going to elaborate on the bike rodeo. There's no speeding. It's all slow speed events. It's like one of the events is actually called the slow race. It's who can go the slowest to get to the finish line. There's plank race, and when I say plank race, it's you're riding over a 2x6 piece of wood, and your objective is to stay on that piece of wood. So there's no speeding involved in any of those rodeo events. It's all contained within a small section of the parking lot, a cordoned off section.
The one that I attended, sir, was in the back of the building, and the speeds were quite high. And a matter of fact, some tires caught on fire there.
So that was
Aware of that?
I am aware of that. I've been with the company for 21 years, so I'm very aware of that. I did talk to Mr. Patch after that event happened, because we did approach the neighbors in the area to make them aware of what that event was. That was a grand opening stunt show that we had, and I went up and down the street, talked to the neighbors, even offered to buy them some pizzas and stuff, and gave them a schedule of times on Saturday and Sunday when those events would be taking place. And after that event happened, and I talked to Mr. Patch, I assured him that we wouldn't be having those type of events out in the back parking lot any further, and we haven't since. Yep.
Thank you very much. Just for the record, I did go to your last event, and there were, quite a few problems based with the wine sales and unattended wine table, the cooking, which wasn't even discussed or brought up previously, the way the whole exterior was cordoned off with a couple cones, which really was inadequate. You had no real people monitoring the comings and goings of this. Now, granted, you only had about 20 people at the event, so it wasn't like an overflow crowd of people drinking. If you sold 10 beers, I think that was a lot for that event. But there were a lot of problems that seemed to be able to be corrected if someone would have given it some thought. Deputy?
Sorry to interrupt. So I've had a couple extensive conversations with Ariel, and I've sent her some code sections from Massachusetts so she's aware of what's required. She's now up to speed on a code section that requires for them for outdoor event to have a safety plan put together, and they're in the process right now of hiring a fire protection engineer. I don't care about the ice cream event that's inside, the other event that's inside. So any of these future events they're going to have outside, whether it's slow motorcycles or whatever, this fire protection engineer is gonna look at this event, and he's gonna give a layout and a requirement set up based on the code. So what I've asked for them to do, again, I don't mean to interrupt this, but I think this is gonna address a lot of the problems that we're looking for. So this fire safety plan is required. So what she's gonna have to do, she's gonna have to look at her events for that year, provide them to this engineer. The engineer's gonna look at the events, do a layout based on that. They have a great layout plan of the parking lot that he can look at and say, okay, set this up, this is where you gotta clear this. So I think a lot of these issues are gonna be addressed by them abiding by that section of the code. I just wanted to give you that information. So going forward, any type of motorcycle event or anything, this report is gonna be part of it, and she's gonna be obligated to abide by it. So as far as details go, I won't speak for the police, but I did speak to Chief Guido after site plan the other day. He said he wasn't concerned about details. But may I ask, where you getting the 99 from? Are you referring that to like?
Asked her if she would, how many she thought would be at the event, because 100 or more, they have to have police detail, and she said she'd probably have about 99 to avoid that.
Is that an ordinance or something? Is this something I'm not aware of?
Well, usually, I think Sean can...
The last meeting we discussed it as a possible threshold as to when we might start talking about police details. There's no ordinance discussing any hard and fast number about when you need a police detail. It was just a discussion at the meeting.
And we thought we... police detail.
And I think that would depend on density. And I unfortunately haven't been down to one of these events, so I could probably, the engineer should be able to give that number based on the density, looking at the parking lot and the layout. They don't want to hear this, but I'm not against having a fire detail down there during some of the events, like the Touch a Truck. Some of the events they do are great. They do some really great things for the community and raise money for some great charities. The Touch a Truck, there was a lot of equipment down there, there was a lot of cooking, including the fire department was down there, but with our ladder truck. But that's an event that probably should have been a fire detail at. So I think working through this safety plan and working with their engineer, we can look at it and really come back with a good plan that maybe you don't have to cut back the number of events as long as everyone's signing off in an agreement. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. So are you comfortable with where we are now with these folks?
Based on our correspondence and as long as they move forward as we discussed, I'm comfortable, yes.
Thank you. Lieutenant, are you comfortable with where we are with?
Yeah, I'm comfortable.
I mean, I've had conversation with the police chief as well, and he's comfortable with your operation, and he thinks that, you guys are trying to do the right thing, and so I don't know if anybody else has any comments you'd like to make on this hearing?
Any opponents?
Could I ask a question in regards to the detail? The number 100 for the detail, is that just while alcohol's being served, or is that on any given event where there's more than 100 people? Because
Well, it's actually Lieutenant Mandel.
Would be more.
Yeah, as far as from the standpoint of the police, as far as us, it depends on what you're doing for setup. If you bring out that structure again,
right.
those type
No.
of things,
Yes, no.
then yeah, we're gonna want to fight detail. Extensive cooking, those type of things.
So when you have events, what's your relationship with the Easy Pie restaurant? Do you communicate with them, and do you have any involvement? Are they involved in these events whatsoever?
they're typically not involved in any of our events. I mean, other than the fact that they lease property from the owners, they're not usually involved in any of our events, no.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I am comfortable that they've addressed the issues that was subject to this hearing. And so I would make a motion that we put this on file and see how we do going forward. Does anybody else have any other ideas on that?
No, I think it's, I'll second the motion. You make the motion.
Yeah, a motion to file it.
File it, yeah, and the same thing, as long as we keep the communication with the deputy chief.
Deputy Chief and Mr. Wells.
Lieutenant Randall, that's kind of where we have our allegiance.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you
So
for
as
your
long
time.
as we all
Appreciate
stay
it.
on the same page, we should be fine.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Select Transportation, Inc., 60 VFW Parkway, James Marcotte, manager. This is a hearing into violations. Thank you. Into violations of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 148, Section 56, repeatedly parking more cars than license allows. Your name and address for the record, please, sir.
James Marcotte, 60 VFW Parkway and 135 American Legion Highway. I'm here today not to dispute the number of cars that were parked down at the Necco property. I'm here to dispute whose cars they were. Since Necco closed in October and vacated the property, there's been a free-for-all down at the property with people parking down there that shouldn't be parking there. The current landlord is really not on site. They go by to check it out for, safety, making sure doors are locked and what have you. There have been a number of issues down there with people breaking into the building, and so I really just wanted to go over with you a quick kind of chain of events since May, which is the first page on the package that I gave you. Back in May, it came to my notice that there were a lot of cars down at Necco that weren't ours. We put a certain ticket on our dashboard, and when we went down and inspected the parking lot, there were a number of vehicles that did not have our ticket on the dashboard, as well as had tickets from another company. When I realized what was going on in May, I requested a meeting with Dan Donahue, who's the president of the Comfort Inn, to meet with him and discuss what was going on, because I felt that the majority of the vehicles that were parked down there that shouldn't have been were coming from the Comfort Inn. So in May of this past year, I requested a meeting, and that request is on the first page of the package that I gave you, and why I requested the meeting. One day I came into my front desk and realized that we had a line of customers out the door. And normally when I look at my reports, I know how many customers are coming in that day. When I looked at the line out the door, I couldn't figure out what the problem was until I then started questioning some of the customers and realized that they weren't our customers at all. They were the Comfort Inn's customers, that they were parking vehicles, and they were telling the customers to come over to our desk. We were checking them in, capturing their keys, and then our staff would be then moving the cars down to Necco. When I figured out what was going on, I requested a meeting with Dan Donahue in May, and the second page is 5 or 6 cancellations of our meeting that was set for May, June, and July. That's on the second page, showing in the middle of the section it says meeting canceled. So I tried to schedule a meeting to get this situation resolved. The third page is finally I did have a meeting with him. I was very upset, expressed to him my concerns about my license and about going outside of the footprint, and the meeting got a little heated. I walked out of the meeting, and the next correspondent is the page that says number 3, which is the response from Dan Donahue. It says, since we have not heard back from you since our last meeting, we are assuming that November 26th will be the end of our contract, okay? After that, they started to rectify the problem because they knew how upset I was, okay? So page 5 is a letter that I sent to Dan Donahue after the meeting, after I had time to calm down, telling him that I was canceling my arrangement with him and that I no longer wanted to have a relationship with the Comfort Inn. If you read number 5, it specifically states that I've had a relationship with the City of Revere for a very long time, and I didn't want this to affect my name or affect my business. In the midst of all this, NECO has advised me that the new owner of NECO has released the NECO property. So August 31st, there will be no more parking down there anyway. My lease is done with them. We're on a month-to-month. The main reason why I'm here is because when the new tenant does come in, if there's an opportunity for me to sublet some space from them, I would like to. Or I may decide to try to move my license somewhere else if there is a piece of property. And at that time, I will then come to the License Commission, fill out the proper paperwork, and request a new license. So this is a little moot at this point because we're going to be out of there. I just wanted to make sure that this board and the chief understood. I did have a meeting with him yesterday to clarify with him where I felt this problem was coming from, and it's coming from a lot of the neighbors that are down in that area. The RMV has 2 parking lots, 60 on one level, 60 on the other level. When the chief came down and saw that there were 500 and something cars parked there were, but they weren't all our cars. And what's happening is people are using the RMV for overflow on the weekends. It just happened that the weekend that he came down, they were doing striping and seal coating, so every single car had to be out of the RMV parking lot. Where did those cars end up? They ended up down at NECO, and they weren't mine. So it was just important for me to clarify what's going on and what's happening, because I don't want this to affect my relationship with the city, and I don't want to affect my license being moved, if it's able to move. If it's not able to move, then it's not. But if you go to page 6, if you would, I wanted to make sure that you guys, saw this today. We do business with a company called Way.com, and a lot of our business comes through this third-party website. I sent the Vice President an email today, and I specifically did it today so there would be no time for him to respond anything different than the truth. So I put in an email to him this morning at 11 o'clock, and the email states, during the peak of a few weeks before the Comfort Inn changed their spots to 75, what was the maximum spots you had them at? Meaning, Way.com sets a certain amount of spots for each party that they do business with. So I'm friendly with the guy. I just asked him how many spots he had set for the Comfort Inn. Page 7 was, I responded back to him, during the peak week before Comfort Inn changed the rate to 75 spots, what was the max? And his response was, he was on a plane going to LAX, but yes, you were close. When we were using their name, it was around 220 cars. So I don't know where those 220 cars are being parked, because there's not 220 spaces in the Comfort Inn parking lot when you take into consideration margaritas and the cars that they need. So I'm really here just to tell you that this is a situation, it is a problem, but you're going to see the problem disappear from us, and whatever happens going forward is people are using the lot, they're using a lot, and it's not a lot for me to go in and tell people whether they can or cannot use it.
I appreciate that. If you just shut off that mic for a second. That's all well and good. However, I'm looking at some promotional material that was provided on the web by Select Valet Comfort in Boston, which indicates that you're advertising that you have over 500 parking spaces available.
That is correct. So what happened was originally we had that set at 250. So that is a recent printout of what has happened. What Way.com did was took our 250, took Comfort Inn's 250, added them together, and started presenting it as 500. That is not my website. That's Way.com. My personal website says 250 cars on it, not 500. So Way took it upon themselves to combine the two and then started sending the reservations through the system. So when we were showing up at the desk to process our customer's transaction, we didn't realize that Comfort Inn was sending our customers to us. So when the customer was presenting their itinerary saying, I'm here to check in, we looked at our list and we saw that their name was not on our list. We didn't want to not provide the customer service and send them away. We checked them in on behalf of the Comfort Inn. So that 250, that 500 number was never 500. That was changed when the Comfort Inn got a relationship with Way and took their own 250, our 250, and Way added them together and put 500.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
I have no questions. He's actually answered all the questions that I had, and I know you're actively looking for other area to move into. So I wish you luck on that, but.
All right, thank you.
You've answered my questions.
Same here, I'd like to hear what Deputy Chief,
All right, so I'll just provide a little background. So back when NECO had its ammonia leak issue, we were down there for several days, and we noted that there was a high density of vehicles back then. And we did a couple car counts. It was real preliminary fast, and it was definitely over 300. So at that point, it's come to our attention that we wanted to pay a little more attention to the lot. I drove through a couple other times, and that back corner was pretty dense. Then I decided to drive through on Sunday, July 28th, which is the date he's referring to, and I took the time and I did a total car count of 575 vehicles in the former NECO parking lot. At that point, I then called the manager of NECO, the property, I'll call it NECO for lack of a better term, and had a conversation with him where he told me that Mr. Marcotte had contacted him and asked him if it was okay if he increased the car count in the parking lot, okay? As far as that building being locked up and not any activity going on, that's kind of interesting to me because there's a full safety plan, there's a full gut job going on in the sprinkler system, fire alarm system, rebuilt, there's contractors in there all the time. I'm aware of their cars and I count their cars out of this count. Not aware, I don't know if the police are aware, I'm not aware of any break-ins in that building. That building's empty, there's nothing in it. So it's right now being stripped back for this potential new tenant that is talking to the property right now. So that said, at that point we found 575. I was told by his attendant in the field that a lot of them were Enterprise's vehicles. I went and spoke to Enterprise about their vehicles and what they keep, and they were very forward with me and said at most we'll have 20 vehicles around here, some in the front, and they have permission to use that one of the back parking lots from the Everett Ave property owner. There are 3 parking lots behind the registry. There's the registry parking lot, there's another parking lot, that parking lot has 66 spaces, and then there's another parking lot which has 47 spaces, which is gated. The 47 space gated parking lot is what Comfort Inn uses as their park and fly parking lot, as well as part of the other parking lot. Again, I'm giving you facts what I know. Maybe some of this is got changed around. If you go to way.com, there's not 1, but 5 sites on way.com that advertise park and fly, and they all advertise park and fly 85 American Legion Highway. Of those 5 sites, 2 sites say that they have over 500 spaces. I don't know which is his site. The Select Valet Comfort, which you referred to, has 500 spaces. That shows pictures of 60 VFW Parkway. If you go to the Select Express site, that shows pictures of the gated lot, which I referred to, that Comfort Inn uses, and it gives the address 85 American Legion Highway. You go to the Comfort Logan Airport parking, that shows inside the Comfort Inn outside and talks about its affiliation with the hotel. Then you go to Logan Airport, long-term exclusive deal, and that shows pictures of inside American Legion Highway. Then you go to the last one, Comfort Inn and Suites, that shows a picture of the hotel, and they talk about 500 parking spaces. So is this all Mr. Marcotte? Is it the Comfort Inn? I think it's a combination thereof. Mr. Marcotte has a station inside the Comfort Inn where he does his park and fly and runs it from, so they're kind of joined at the hip here in this venture. My understanding, Comfort Inn has 70 what parking spaces? 78, that sounds correct. And Mr. Marcotte has 239. So if you add the numbers together, we're still not at 500. So I don't know where the 500 comes from. All that said, he's, at the end of July, he was a tenant at will. He's supposed to be off the property for that. So now I can focus on the only park and fly that's there is the Comfort Inn, and they have 78 spaces, and we will address that after Mr. Marcotte is finished his time at the property. So where are we right now? I think it's going to resolve itself at the end of the month.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Mr. Marcotte?
I would just like to say one other thing. I want to clarify that these problems haven't been going on since October. We had the problem Thanksgiving, we had the problem at Christmas, we had April vacation, February vacation. So these problems have been happening since October, at least, since NECO vacated their business. With reference to people breaking in, the people that he's talking about being in the building, they're not there on the weekends. That's when it's happening, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. They're never there on the weekends. And they're all there until 3 o'clock. They're not there at night. So when we ran into these problems, I'm sure the police, who I'm not sure of his name, can attest that there has been calls of sending police down there for people that have been inside the building. They're not going inside the building during the day. They're going inside the building at night. That was just something I brought up to reference that the landlord really is not an on-site landlord handling issues. It's contractors, like he said, and fire contractors, and no one that I can go and talk to have a conversation with about what's going on down at that parking lot.
All right, well, thank you very much. I'll tell you, one of the concerns that I have as a member of the board is that, I'm getting the feeling that there is a lack of good faith here as far as how many cars you're parking, how many cars you're paying for. I understand that you reduced the number of cars on your license this year.
Yes, that is correct. And also to show that there is not a lack of good faith, I actually called Mrs. Guanasso's house about a month and a half ago to talk to her husband to try to get an additional license down at St. Anthony's Church for 40 cars for my overflow, so I wouldn't go outside the footprint that I had. So if I needed 40 cars, I could have just stuck them somewhere down in Necco. There's plenty of space available, but I reached out to Mr. Guanasso. He checked the zoning and said, unfortunately, right now, we can't have that happen. I wouldn't have reached out for 40 cars if I could just take advantage of the Necco property. So I'm here to tell you that I can tell you where the 500 cars are coming from. They're coming from Way.com. That's it. And Way.com is the one who's the culprit here, pushing 250 for Comfort Inn and 250 for us. So I just want to clarify that is not our website. Anybody can say whatever they want on their website. I don't have control over it. But when those customers start checking in and I get to 250, and the reason it was 250 is we set it when I had 27 at 60 VFW Parkway. I never changed the 250 down to 239. But we always stayed within our footprint of the right-hand side striped spaces. It then started going way outside of our footprint starting in October, every single holiday season. And the reason this started again in May and why I jumped on it was because kids started getting out of school and the kids started getting out of college, travel season started, and I saw the problem starting happening all over again, and I addressed it long before he came down in July.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any comments? Or
I think that, as the fire chief said, I think it's going to straighten itself out. And since Mr. Marcotte brought it up, he has called and he is looking for places and trying to move cars. So I do know that. And as soon as he was told it wasn't zoned, he respectfully withdrew that. So I think at this point we're going to see how it plays out. I'm sure the chief is going to keep an eye on it. And if no one has anything else, I would place it on file and go from there, see what the chief, if he keeps an eye on it, and we'll see where we go from there. But right now, I do see a lot of miscommunication and things that I do know how he is looking for space. I still see it hard trying to push 40 cars without using that space.
It's really not part of the agenda here, but there is a little bit of an issue behind the parking lots and behind the registry where there's a little bit of a tent city starting to show up.
Thank you, Deputy. Do you have any?
No, I think Linda said what I would say, and Deputy Chief will fill us in, I'm sure, Lieutenant Randall, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, well, I guess the consensus is that this thing is going to take care of itself by the end of the month based upon the lease situation, and so I guess we will put it on file and keep a monitor of the situation, and if we need to come back, we'll come back and revisit it. Thank you very much for your time.
That concludes. Okay, that concludes.
That takes care of the hearings.
Excuse me, Before we go further, we did have that one other issue, and I guess for that Beachmont
Is anybody
Multicultural
here from the
Festival.
Beachmont Improvement Committee? No one's here.
I see they're looking for the date of September 28th. When is our next meeting?
18th.
September 18th, so how do we want to handle that? Bring it up next month?
I guess. I mean, there's no one here to speak on it. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they have for plans. There's no plans submitted.
Do you want to vote it? Did she have all the paperwork? Okay. I don't know that we have all the paperwork anyway, so
No.
why don't we put her on the next agenda? And if we have a meeting before then, we can take it up then.
Very good. That concludes the hearings on the agenda. The next matter are communications, notification from the Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, approving the application for Uno Restaurant LLC, DBA Uno Chicago Grill for a change of officers and directors. Number 2, a notification from the Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, approving the application for Netra Inc., DBA Dairy Mart, for transfer of all alcohol package store from Dairy Mart Liquor Inc. Number 3, notification from the Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, approving the application for Ocean 500 of Revere LLC, DBA Drift, for an all-alcohol restaurant license. Number 4, notification from the Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission, approving the application of Driftwood Special Servicing LLC, DBA 4 Points by Sheridan Revere, for a transfer of an all-alcohol in-holder license from Besuteki Japanese Steakhouse, Inc. And number 5, notification from the Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission approving the application of Mahavir Enterprises, Inc., DBA Convenience Mart and Deli, for a change of manager. That concludes the communications, and
Next
that concludes the agenda.
We can
I make a
adjourn.
motion that we
We can adjourn till what, the
Adjourn.
21st?
the next meeting is September
21st.
18th. So the meeting will be adjourned till September 18th. I made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Test 1, 2. The meeting of the Revere Zoning Board of Appeals will now come to order. Roll call. Mr. Bacilli? Mr. D'Angelo? Mr. Lopes? Mr. Pelton? Mr. Tucker? Present. If we could please rise and salute the flag. First application before the board is application A1925. This is the application of Abdul Jal Tilihad and Fatha Nawami, 84 Jones Road, Revere, requesting rear and side yard variances to enable the appellant to construct a detached accessory structure shed in the rear and side yard on lots 21 at 84 Jones Road. Is the applicant present? Please step up to the microphone, press the button, and state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Abdul Jalil Ait Al-Hajj. I'm here to apply for a virus for siding.
Okay, do you have anything to present to us? Seeing that this is a public hearing, I will ask, are there any proponents? Anyone in favor?
My name is Darlene Jones. I live at 80 Jones Road. I'm an abutter to the gentleman who's requesting the change in ordinance. And he's been a great neighbor, and I don't see why there should be any problem with this.
As an abutter, what side, to the left or right, facing the house?
If I'm facing the house, I'm on the left side.
Thank you. Is there any other proponents?
Good afternoon. My name is Hassan Shitwani. I am the neighbor of Abdul Jalil. My house is 86 Jones Road. He's next door to him, and he built a shed, and I don't have any problem with it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other proponents? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents? Anyone opposed?
Michael Trapula, 87 Jones Road. I live directly across from his driveway, meaning if he were to pull out straight, he would pull right down my driveway. I oppose this matter and that structure that he's placed. I have helped that neighbor multiple times move from business to business as a mechanic. When he built that monstrosity in his backyard, my fear was that he was going to operate a garage for repairing vehicles in a residential neighborhood. Just a week or so ago, he moved his toolbox, which is the size of a small pickup truck, into the garage that he built. So I am opposing this because in the future, I am afraid that he's going to run a business out of the backyard of a residential house across the street from my home. And I don't find that to be the correct way to do any business. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any members who wish to speak? I do have some questions, but I'll allow the members first.
Can someone tell me what the size of that shed?
The current shed or the shed that was removed? Oh, you mean the garage?
The size of the shed, the old one was 8 by 8. The one I have is 10 by 10.
Am I correct when I look at this picture that there's a garage door for a vehicle can enter that shed? Is it a garage door? It's a garage door. Okay, that answers the question. Is there a driveway permit cut for cutting the sidewalk for a driveway? Has that been applied for?
For the entrance of my house?
For... Okay, I found this on the web. In order to get to this shed or garage, do you have a driveway that goes to that? It looks like you're putting down pavers to put a driveway there.
Yeah, it was a pavers, and they put the pavers there. Just they changed the pavers.
So you're extending the pavers from your driveway to this
the shed.
So-called shed?
Yes.
Why would you be extending the full width of the structure rather than just put a walkway to go to a shed? You're making it a driveway going to this garage.
This is a shed. Okay, the shed is in the back. That space, it was like empty. It was always just the grass. And always, I have a problem with the rat and stuff coming. If you see those pictures, I have some pictures here. It was a dirt and stuff, the rat coming under that old shed. I take that one out and I put the pavement.
Did you get a cease and desist order from the city to stop you from building this? Was the city involved in stopping you from building this shed? That's why you're here in front of us?
Yes.
Okay. And did you pour a foundation for this shed?
The city come in, they see the foundation for the shed, they take it out, they see the foundation, and it was in the process. I was in the first virus, and now I am coming to the second one.
So you continue to build even after the city told you to stop?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, I got a question, Michael. I went by this property, and where you see if it's paved, he has a driveway that's fenced before you get to here, before you get to the pavement, which is not shown in the picture. And prior, speaking to Mr. Abdel, prior to this, he did have the building inspector show up, and all they wanted to see was the foundation, that it went down 3 feet below the frost level. So he's gone through the building inspector and so forth.
But then the building inspector seen a garage door being put on and put a cease and desist order, I believe.
Not that I know of.
Would the applicant please step up to the microphone? My question is, has the building department give you a cease and desist notice to stop doing anything to that property as we speak?
Yeah, when I'm done everything, I stop everything. I never did, because I already built it, and you notice it under when I'm finished.
So currently you have a notice that says you cannot use it, it's a cease and desist notice from the city?
No.
Okay.
Can I ask you something? What are you using the shed for? That's what are you using it for?
Just say I close my business. I have a toolbox, and they have pressure washer. I have so many stuff for to cut the grass and stuff, and they put my stuff there. That's what I have.
And that's what you had in there before, am I correct? Is that what you had in there before? Whatever you had, the pressure washer, the toolbox, and...
That's what I have before.
Yeah, and I don't, it don't show a fence, so you can't drive on this driveway and go directly in there if you wanted to. Am I correct? Okay, so in other words, anything that's in the backyard, you can put through there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you be willing to take out the garage door and making it a shed? Removing the garage door and just having a passage door?
Yes, if you want, I will do it.
So then it would be a 10 by 10 shed rather than having a garage door?
Okay, I will do it. I will take the doors and they will put the doors, like sliding door, like this side, open doors.
I am asking if you would be willing to close that in and just have one passage door. A passage door which you already have to the right on the picture, closing off the garage door totally by putting up a wall just like you'd have at a shed.
Okay, I will do it.
Can we put a restriction on this as, say, not being able to do business there?
We could put a restriction that there be no vehicle. We could restrict it. We could restrict it. If you wish to do that, make a motion to restrict it for just storage, no vehicles.
Motion to restrict it from doing any business there or repairs?
There's a motion on the floor to have this restricted for no vehicles, no repairs, just for storage. Is there seconded?
Yeah, I'll second that. I think it's less costly than replacing the door. So do you understand, Abdel?
Did you go over and address it right away, or did you wait till it was built?
No, I contacted the city before that thing even went up. Because I said, look, I've helped him move from garage to garage. I was someone who he can
So a motion on the floor is to remove the garage door and have one passage door that's pre-existing in the picture, and that we make a restriction that there's no automotive repairs or any other repairs being done from that shed, and it's simply for storage. Is there a second? No, I added that the garage door be removed as part of the motion. Is there a second? Seconded. Roll call.
The question now comes on granting the relief requested subject to the restrictions. Mr. Bacilli? Yes. Mr. D'Angelo? Yes. Mr. Lopes? Yes. Mr. Pelton? Yes. Mr. Tucker? Yes, this is granted, subject to the conditions.
Thank you so much.
The next application before the board is application A1926, the application of Stephanie Vasello, 14 Crestway Road, Boston, requesting maximum principal building coverage exceeding the number of stories to enable the appellant to construct a 3 1/2 story two-family dwelling on lots 21 and 22 adjacent to 62 Patriot Parkway, Revere.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Carrie Ann Green. I'm here today with Corey Rhodes. We're attorneys with D'Ambrosio Brown with an office at 14 Proctor Avenue, Revere. We represent Stephanie Vasallo, the applicant, who is seeking to construct a two-family dwelling on a parcel she owns on Patriot Parkway. The parcel is located in the LD Overlay District. The proposed two-family dwelling meets almost all dimensional requirements and provides all required parking spaces. There will be 4 parking spaces on the property. We are not expecting anyone to be parking on the street. The relief requested is minimal. The proposed dwelling will be 3 1/2 stories tall. The zoning district allows 2 1/2 stories. The dwelling will not be higher than 30 feet tall, which is allowed in the district. The other relief we are requesting is regarding the maximum principal building coverage. We are proposing 34% building coverage, where the district allows 30%. We've spoken with the ward counselor, and he has no problem with the project. Moreover, more than 20 neighbors have signed letters of support for the project, which we have filed with the board. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and I'm looking for your approval. Thank you.
Okay, seeing that it's a public hearing, are there any proponents in favor?
Good evening, my name is Richard Ireton. I live at 115 Davis Street, the corner of Davis Street and Patriots Parkway, approximately 100 feet from the site of the proposed home. I'm not here to speak on the issues of what the zoning is. I don't know them, not familiar with them. I'm here to speak on the issue with the family. Mr. Vasallo's family, my family, have been in this neighborhood pretty close to 100 years, dating back to about 1920, 1930. They've been outstanding neighbors all of my life. I know the daughter very well. I was there at birth. When she was born, I've watched her raise. She wants to move back home. From our position, I'll speak solely for myself, but my family's here as well. We're delighted to see people coming back to the neighborhood that had originally left. We're in support of this project. I can tell you that I've had a conversation with Mr. Vasallo, Frankie, the father. I'm confident that the plan that's on the table right now is specifically for his daughter to move back home so he can be close to his family again. The grandkids can come back. So from my position, which is approximately 100 feet away, I support this project, and I would ask the board to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other, if you're from the same address, just to, okay, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Teresa Ireton, 113 Davis Street. And again, I'm not going to address any zoning issues. I'm going to address the fact that the Vasallos have been in the neighborhood for God knows how many years. And in fact, I came before the zoning board 34 years ago with a similar request. My parents, I wanted to move back to the area, and my parents were kind enough to offer their land for me to build, and I came before the zoning, and everyone was very supportive of it. That neighborhood is, I think, becoming kind of unique because we have the Bianchis that have lived there forever, the Vasallos who have lived there forever, the Iretons who have lived there forever, Mark Antonio's.
Not to cut you short, you're not opposed to...
I'm not opposed. I would love to see her do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone... You're with the Ireton? Okay, if there's anyone else, please step up to the microphone.
Henry Tufo, 59 Larkin Street. We're backyard neighbors practically. And my father bought the property on Larkin Street in 1926. We've been neighbors ever since. I can't think of a finer family to have for a neighbor. And as far as the project that they want to build there, I can't see anything wrong with it. It's not going to affect me in any way. I have a little garden back there, and I don't think it's going to cast any shade or anything like that on my garden. So I'm okay with it. I accept the property that they want to build. I think it'd be fine.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents? Anyone opposed? Hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing. Any members wish to speak? Then we'll ask for a roll call.
Question now comes on granting the relief requested. Mr. Bacilli? Yes. Mr. D'Angelo? Yes. Mr. Lopes? Yes. Mr. Pelton? Yes. Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Yes, this is granted. No further business?
No further business. Our next meeting will be September 25th, the last Wednesday of the month.